Hey there, and welcome back to another DFG Live, a special DFG Live. We published a free ebook about a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago, called The Seven Thinking Errors That Prevent Financial Freedom. And the response actually has been quite great. What has happened over the last several years is David and I have, from our own personal experience and from that of working with others, we've realized that there are seven thinking errors that adversely affect most of us, and that's why so many of us are in credit card debt. So with this Facebook Live, we're going to help you overcome each of those thinking errors so that you can start achieving financial security, financial freedom, which is what we all want and why David and I do what we do. So this Facebook Live will help you give you the tools or the information that you need to overcome those seven thinking errors so that you can start achieving financial freedom. And once you realize some of these thinking errors and how they're affecting you, some of which you might not even realize are affecting you, once you realize how that they're affecting you and how they're affecting you, then you can start to overcome them and you'll start to see things change for you. We know this from our own experience, plus all the people that we've worked with over the last several years. And that was the inspiration for the book. So we're just going to dive right into it. So the seven thinking errors that prevent financial freedom. The first one is having more money would solve all my problems. This is probably one of the leading thinking errors out there. We're constantly thinking that if I get a raise, or especially if I get that promotion, that all my financial problems will go away. And very often we use that as the motivation for why we continue to go back to school. We continue to add to our degrees and get masters and graduate degrees and all that sorts of stuff, because we think that those will give us the opportunity to make more money and then all of our financial problems will go away. But as we've learned from our own personal experience, making more money does not make our problems go away. I mean, think about like examples, like famous ones that we know of, like MC Hammer, who made a lot of money in the 90s, but he ended up filing for bankruptcy. Think about the problems that Johnny Depp is currently going through, who's arguably one of the most successful actors in history, yet now he's going through financial problems of his own. And they are examples that simply having more money doesn't make your problem go away. This is something that we think challenges the queer community, especially. But most of us, while there are anomalies to this, most of us actually have a spending problem. We don't have an income problem.
Wait, what? We have a what?
We have a spending problem, not an income problem. Yeah. We know of people who earn less than $40,000 a year, who are saving aggressively for retirement, and who travel the world regularly. They have been to more countries than we've ever been to. But then we know of people who have multiple six-figure incomes who are in six figures worth of debt and spending $60,000 a year on credit card interest payments. So it's not the fact that one earns more money than the other and that's why they have more financial security. It's that one of them is managing their money better than the other.
Right.
I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, one of the crazy things about what we end up doing here is that many of us will co-opt the lower income individuals and adopt that thinking or saying that I don't make enough money. We're actually, basically what we're doing is we're lumping ourselves in with people who really do have an income problem. And what that really does is it's basically lying to ourselves, but in a sense, we're being unfair to people who really do have income inequality problems. Individuals who make far less than us, if we're saying that we have the same problem that they have, we're basically not accepting reality or addressing that they truly do have an income problem. We're saying, pay attention to me because I have an income problem. As John was just going to point out, oftentimes we're being lazy by lumping ourselves in with individuals who truly do have these income problems. And that's not fair to them. When we are maybe living our lives in a way that is not addressing what some of our true problems are, we're not being fair to those people.
Exactly. It's definitely lazy thinking to think that we all are suffering from income problems. And this might be hard for people to hear, but unfortunately, unless you accept the truth unless you accept the reality, you can never actually overcome the challenges, and then you're always going to be stuck in the situation that you're in. And again, like I said before, David and I know this from experience. We would continue to strive, go to get new jobs, work for new firms, get more education, work our way up the ladder, yet we continue to find ourselves further and further and further in credit card debt. And clearly, we got to a point where we were earning really good money as a household, but our financial situation didn't change. It in fact, arguably got worse. And I think this parallels the experience that, over 78, I think the Sports Illustrated reported a couple of years ago that over 78% of pro athletes end up filing for bankruptcy after they retire from professional sports, and a very close correlation with the percentage of people who win the lottery. I mean, how many times have you driven past the billboard and it said multi-millions of dollars that you could win if you actually won the lottery? And we all fantasize what we would do with that money and what our lives would look like and how we would help people and everything would be improved. But 70+% of people who win the lottery end up filing for bankruptcies. So things did not get better for them. Things, arguably their relationships might have deteriorated with their friends and family because of the money that they won. So things could have likely gotten better.
Right. Whether it's earning more money so that you're getting money on a regular basis, or it's getting some sort of huge lump sum amount of money coming into your life, it looks like for the vast majority of people, neither of those solve our true financial issues, because we end up spending that money in ways that is aligned with the habits that we've had for such a long time, right? That's why having more money doesn't actually, in many ways, doesn't really solve our financial problems until we address the issues that are related to why we have financial problems in the first place.
Exactly. So if you've read the 7 Thinking Errors That Prevent Financial Freedom, that is available for free at debtfreeguys.com, you already know some of the context of what this thinking error is. So what we want to provide you, though, is the solution. The solution to this is as we found from our personal experience and the people that we've worked with, is to take a deep dive, a granular look at what your spending looks like. When we realized that we were in $51,000 of credit card debt, one of the first things that David did was he grabbed all of our account statements for our checking and savings accounts, our debit cards and our credit cards, whatever he had access to, whether it was paper statements or what he could access online. And he itemized every single expense of ours for an entire 12-month period. He went all the way back for 12 months and itemized all of those expenses. There were some buckets that were unidentifiable, such as I think we had, $4,000 in ATM withdrawals that we couldn't identify?
Yeah, I think it was about that. So $4,000 over a whole year, which is between the two of us, we're probably looking at about $150 to $200 a month. Which, when you think about it at a monthly level, that isn't a significant amount of money. But at the yearly level, we realize, wow, that's $4,000 a year. We couldn't account for where that money went.
Right, but that wasn't the only outlier, only concern that crept up in our budget. There were a couple of expenses that really, when you look at our income and our other expenses, that really stood out as causing the major problems in our financial situation. But it wasn't until we took that deep dive on our spending that we were able to see, the truth is that we actually make decent money. We just spent like assholes, and our financials reflected that. So what we had to do was figure out a way to rein in some of those outliers so that we could start to not only start paying off our debt, but then when we paid off our debt, we could start saving for more important things like to buy a home or to save for our retirement. So the solution for you, if you think that simply earning more money is going to improve your financial situation, 1, look back and see how that's worked out for you so far. 2, because there's a very good chance that your income has increased over the years, and of course it goes up and down for most of us, but by and large, for most Americans, the trajectory of your income increases over time. If you've seen that increase in your income over time, your financial situation hasn't improved. Again, it's your spending that's your problem. So do that deep dive, granular look at your spending, and then use that information to improve your situation. And this is one of the steps that we walk through. We actually have a spending analysis spreadsheet that we've created that includes all the possible categories you could think of on a monthly basis, and we walk you through that in our the actual credit card payoff course that we have open to the public right now for new members. We walk you through that step by step, so you can really take that deep dive into your spending, and we walk you through how to improve your situation. Thinking error number 2, Mr. Ottenschneider, do you want to cover this?
Sure. You've been doing a lot of talking. I'll give you a little bit of a break here.
I have a lot to say.
Yeah, I think we both do. So this one, I think, is one that kind of gets to the root of what is going on in our culture as Americans, especially. Thinking error number 2 is that credit card debt is a way of life. Now, most people don't realize this, but when you spend on credit, you're anchoring your future earnings to the past, right? Everything that you plan on earning in the future, well, that you've already spent on. You've already spent that money, even though you haven't even earned it. And I think that a lot of this has to do with this idea that we see this all the time. Everyone is saying that everyone has credit card debt, right? It is a way of life. Well, the reality is no, not everyone has credit card debt. I think the statistics show that roughly only about 50% of American households actually have revolving debt on their account. So they actually have debt on their credit cards month over month over month. So there's a vast majority, or not majority, but a vast number of people out there who don't have credit card debt. But most of us feel like everyone else has credit card debt, so why does it matter? We almost all of us know someone, if not, or not just ourselves, our partners, a family member, friends. We all know people who have that credit card debt. But the reality is we also know just as many people who don't have credit card debt. Maybe we're not aware of it, but there are a lot of people out there. So the solution to get over this thinking error, this thinking that credit card debt is a way of life, is to actually look for those opposites, right? Look for those people who are debt-free. There are lots of people who write about this. They blog about this. They talk about it on the news, in media. There are lots of people who are in that situation. And so if there are people who can do it, we can do it too. We have to first believe that it isn't a way of life, because if we believe it's a way of life, we're just going to get stuck there, and we will continue to pay more and more interest. More and more of our hard-earned money will be used for financing our debt rather than enjoying our lives.
I think this is another, I know we said this for the first example, but I think this is another example of lazy thinking. Most of us don't want to take ownership of our financial situation, so we just make this blanket statement, especially for a community who doesn't want people to stereotype them. We make this blanket statement that, well, everybody has credit card debt, or credit card debt is the way of life. And the reason that we added this to the list of 7 thinking errors is that we actually received direct messages and comments on social media, and heard this from people that we've worked with, that everybody has debt. Everybody's in debt. It's just the way the culture is. The United States government is in debt. And it might be that it's a very ubiquitous situation for us, but the truth is that not everyone has credit card debt, and we don't have to accept the lazy thinking that everyone has credit card debt. Therefore, it's okay that I have credit card debt, even though it's stressing me out and sabotaging my financial future. So thinking error number 3 is I don't need to change my spending or my lifestyle to pay off debt. And I'll say this is one of the challenges that I had personally. If you've heard our story and you know that we had $51,000 in credit card debt, I was the big spender. I would like to go out and buy cars and $3,000 couches and go on $6,000 vacations to Vegas and buy $300, $500 pair of jeans. And so I was the big spender, and my concern was that if I stopped spending, then I wouldn't have these nice things, I wouldn't have these great experiences, and then who would I be? How would people identify me? I mean, could I just wear regular jeans out in public? What if I didn't take a fabulous vacation for an entire year? What would people think of me? would I just be average? So it was really a conflict that I had, because I had to accept my own self-worth. And I realized that it wasn't in the things that I had, or the way that I dressed, or the car that I drove, or the things that I experienced. But what's really more important about me is who I am. But at that time, I was living for the superficial. And I think,
I on the other hand, I was the nickel and dimer, right? I was the person who was stopping for a bagel and coffee every morning, going out to lunch every day at work. And I was spending hundreds of dollars a month on food costs that I didn't have to actually be spending money on, or I didn't need to be spending that much. And, we're getting back to kind of the whole idea behind this is this that I don't need to change my way of life to pay off my debt. I think it made me think of Einstein's quote, right? The definition of insanity.
Speaking of bagels.
Right. It made me think of his quote. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result. Well, many of us, that's what we do. We go about our daily lives of overspending, or not caring about our financial situation, or knowing we should be making a better decision but not doing it. And all the time, what are we doing? We're hoping and praying and wishing and that maybe our financial situation will change. But you're basically doing what Einstein said, right? You're doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different change, but just won't happen.
Yeah, we just expect that something's going to happen. I don't know what. Something's going to happen. We're just going to leave it up to the gods, and they'll make everything work out for us.
Well, it's like sitting at home, watching TV, watching Netflix, hoping and praying that you end up finding the perfect mate, right? You find your soulmate. Well, how is sitting at home watching TV going to help you find the perfect soulmate? It's not. So how is maintaining your current spending habits going to help you pay off your credit card debt unless you're figuring out how to spend less money than you're making?
Exactly. So, we talked earlier about doing a deep dive, doing a granular look at all of your expenses. The solution to this challenge is to do that deep dive on your spending, figure out what your true outliers are. Because like we said earlier, for most of us, it's just 2, 3, or 4 expenses, 3 or 4 spending categories that are really throwing our budget completely out of whack, and that's why we're acquiring the debt that we're acquiring. Like for us, we said we were spending a lot of. What did we say? I was spending a lot of money on a lot of things. One of the things we were spending a lot of money on was grocery shopping and dining out. We realized when we did this deep dive on our spending that we were spending $400 a week grocery shopping, as well as $400 a week dining out, and we're just two at the time. Well, we're 2 grown men.
Yeah.
We weren't overweight or anything, so there was really no logic behind why we were spending so much money. Especially when we realized afterward how much money we were spending, and we became strategic about our grocery shopping and controlled our dining out. We didn't stop going out. We just stopped going out as much, and we were able to bring that down to $150 a week. So from $800 a week, or was it a month, wasn't it?
A week.
It was $800 a week.
Right.
Dining out and grocery shopping, we were able to rein that into $150 a week. And that's ridiculous. That's just from being strategic and conscious about our spending. So if you don't think that you need to change your lifestyle to improve your financial situation, again, do that deep dive and see. It's a very good chance you only have a few outliers that are causing all your financial problems.
Right.
And again, this is something that we do that in the credit card payoff course, walk people through that step by step. And even if they're not able to see what the outliers are that are affecting them, with our help, we're able to help pinpoint that and then walk them through the steps that it takes to rein that in.
Right, and one of the things that is the ways of solving this is by having an action plan, right? Having some level of accountability and accepting that you can do something. You can. There is a solution out there, and there are other people who are going through it just like you. You can have them as an ally in your corner to help you maintain your plan to pay off your credit card debt.
Yeah, and that's another great feature of the credit card payoff course. We also have a private Credit Card Payoff Course Facebook group, and that's a whole community of people all working towards paying off their credit card debt. And we're definitely engaged in that. But the best part about it is that the members themselves are engaged in that, and they help and support each other. They hold each other accountable. So there's a whole community of people. So you're not going through it alone, which we think is fabulous. Number 4, do you want to take this or me too?
Sure. So this one is, I think, one that we see a huge number of individuals doing this. The number 4 thinking error is that I can wing it when it comes to money, right? So what does it mean to wing it, right? So wing it basically means that you're reacting instead of being proactive, right? You'll just do whatever is necessary in that time or that moment. Actually, can you go back up? And I guess the question we have to ask, we all have to ask ourselves is, am I winging it? Do I not have a plan? Do I not have a strategy of living my life financially so it's to my benefit? And if that's the case, how's that working out for you, right? If you're watching this, you're probably concerned about your financial situation, right? These are the thinking errors that prevent financial success. So if you are watching this, you're probably wondering, why haven't I achieved financial success? Well, maybe one of the reasons why is because you are winging it when it comes to your finances. And reacting always is going to cost you more. You're going to spend more money. So you don't know exactly what your strategy is. You don't have a plan. And when you don't have a plan, I think the saying goes, those who fail to plan are planning to fail. Well, so that's the reason why so many people wing it financially and then end up unhappy with where they're at financially, right? If you're winging it, the likelihood of you getting what you want, you could land anywhere.
Yeah. So a great question to ask yourself is, how much did you spend in credit cards last month? If you're not able to provide a somewhat accurate estimate of how much you spent on credit cards last month, you're winging it with your finances. If you don't know what you spend at the grocery store week to week, including those one-off trips that you make on the way home from work, then you're probably winging it with your finances. If you don't know how much you're giving your children to go to all the birthday parties that they have to buy presents for, if you can't quantify that, then you're probably winging it with your finances. If you don't have at least $500 in cash and saved in an emergency savings account, or if you're not strategically and actively investing for retirement, if you don't have a checking or savings account, then you're probably winging it with your finances, and you could end up anywhere. And that's not a strategy for success. There's just no way. There's a possibility that you could land lucky, but there's a greater possibility that things are going to continue to deteriorate. And if you don't have the financial freedom or financial success that you desire, then there's a good chance you're probably dealing with thinking error number 4, and that you're winging it with your money, and that's not going to get you anywhere.
Right.
So the solution to, as you probably figured out, the solution to thinking error number 4 is to plan for success. Don't plan to fail. So you want to have a plan, and also budgeting. I don't know of a single person, and we have been in the financial services space for years and know lots of people in the financial services space and have worked with a lot of people. I don't know of a single person who is successful financially that doesn't at least have some kind of a budget. Now, it might not be a fabulous Excel spreadsheet with pie charts and graphs, but they have some understanding of a budget. They know exactly where the money's coming from. They know where their money's going, and they know how much everything in their life costs them, and they know how much they can afford in certain areas. So having a budget and planning for your financial future or financial security is planning for success. Yeah. And that's another thing that we walked through in the credit card payoff course. David and I are big advocates of, we created our own budget, a budget that worked for us, and we like to call it a dynamic budget, because we found that most budgets are restrictive. They kind of felt like diets that we weren't successful on. So we wanted to create something that would actually be more real life, more realistic, and would work with the lifestyles and expectations that we had. So create a dynamic budget that works with your income, because a lot of us have fluctuations in income from month to month or year to year. Not all of us are earning a paycheck via direct deposit. So we created a budget that is dynamic and works with you rather than against you. And as you progressively make improvements in your life, as we know from current members of the credit card payoff course, as you slowly become more conscious of your spending and what you're spending your money on, you start to make progress in your financial situation, and that starts to have a great impact on helping you pay off your credit card debt, starting to save money for retirement or save for those big things, whether it's to put your children through school or to save for a house or to finally buy that car of your dreams, whatever. Having that budget and that plan can help you achieve whatever your financial goals are.
All right,
I'll get off my soapbox.
Yeah,
We'll go down.
Well, and if you're
thinking area
concerned,
number 5,
if you're wondering, do we provide that, or can we help you with that? Yes, we provide and teach you how to budget and how to create a plan to pay off your credit card debt. That right there is one of the foundational pieces of why we teach people how to pay off their credit card debt. And how we teach people is by having those tools available, because if you don't have that, you won't be able to actually pay off your credit card debt. It's amazing to us how many people want to and try to pay off their credit card debt, but they don't have a budget. And for that reason, they pay some off but put money on, and pay some off and put money on. And it's just this constant circle of never actually ever paying off that debt.
Exactly. And having that budget can help ensure that you don't acquire that debt all over again, like we did once.
Yeah.
Number 5, sir.
All right, so this one is very interesting because I think it gets to gets to the core of the way we think or we feel. And thinking area number 5 is talking about money is rude, and that's what a lot of people think, or a lot of people say, that talking about
rude right now.
Yeah, right, and that's what they're basically saying, is that talking about money is rude. But when you think about it, there's all sorts of times when we in our lives when we talk about money. And we should be talking about money, because when we're not talking about money, we oftentimes are not talking about it because we are shameful. And if we're shameful about something, we don't want to expose it. We don't want to do anything about it. It's something we want to hide. And the more we hide it, then the more difficult it really becomes for us to fix that. And the reality is there are a lot of people out there talking about money. And when you look at who they are, who are they? What kind of people actually are out there talking about money, John?
Well, they're the people who are doing well with money. They're the people that are doing great with their investments. They're the people who aren't buried in credit card debt. We have found from our experience that the people who aren't talking about money are the people who aren't typically successful with money. A great example is when we first started going to a personal finance conference 5 years ago. It's an annual conference called FinCon. And when we first started going to this conference, there was a community of African-American women who decided that they were going to start talking amongst each other about money, because they weren't getting any help from the men in their lives. They weren't getting help from their community. Many of them were on government assistance, had multiple children, and didn't have a whole lot of support. And they realized that if they weren't going to take control of their financial situation for themselves as individuals, and themselves as a community of African-American women, that things weren't going to change for them. And over the last 5 years, that community of women has exploded. I mean, they talk about anything from credit or the coupons that work for them to the financial advisor that they love working with, and all of the discussions in between. And they are lifting themselves and their community up in numbers that we would love to do for the LGBTQ community. And that all starts from talking about their financial situation. It might be that the really savvy and financially successful people in the world aren't talking to the broader population about money, but they're talking to each other, whether it's over dinner or on the golf course or flying on their Lear jets privately when nobody else can hear them. They're talking about money amongst themselves, what's working for them and what's not working for them, what investments that they're going into, who's the financial advisor that's killing it this year and that they all might want to gravitate to. They're talking about money. They're just not talking about it so you can hear it. And the people who aren't talking about money are those who feel ashamed, as David said, about their financial situation. And that just continues to keep them in a situation that they don't like. So it's probably not too hard to figure out, but the way to overcome thinking error number 5, that talking about money is rude, is to start talking about money. I mean, we just went on the Queer Money Live tour where we hit 9 cities throughout last summer. And the thing that came out of that conversation, all of those conversations, was that we need to start talking about money.
Yeah.
We need to stop thinking it's rude. Somebody many, many moons ago told us that talking about money is rude. And we've all, for some reason, accepted that as a true story. But it's not. I mean, how we all complain about the fact that we aren't taught about money in high school or college, and that we didn't learn about it at home, and that there's nowhere to go to learn about money now. Well, we've told a whole society of people that it's rude to talk about money. So of course we're not going to bring it up in school, in church, at home. It's rude.
And then how do you learn, right? If nobody's talking, how do you learn?
You don't.
You don't, right? Especially from the people who've had some level of success that may look like you, right?
Exactly.
From your parents, from that person in church, or from that person at the coffee shop that you see with, they're on their computer and they're trading stocks or whatever. Those successful people, you can talk to them, but if we're not talking to each other or trying to get that information, we're just not going to learn. Yeah. And learning that way is one of the best ways to learn.
Exactly. And that's what's really has surprised us about the credit card payoff course. One of the features of that course is we have a weekly video chat. And it was originally designed to answer questions that people had as they were going through the course, to make sure that they weren't stuck on anything for too long. It was also designed to help celebrate celebrate successes and help people overcome any personal challenges that they're going through related to money. But one of the best parts of that weekly video chat that we have with the members of the credit card payoff course is that every single person that attends that meeting with any regularity has told us at one time or another that video chat has held them accountable, and it keeps their financial situation and their goals in their minds on a day-to-day basis. And on a day-to-day basis, they've realized they started to make slightly better financial decisions,
right?
Because they know that whether they tell us on the call or not, they know that they're going to be reminded of a bad decision that they made, or they're going to be reminded of a great decision that they made.
Right.
And it's that call, it's that dialogue that helps keep them accountable. And with the progress they're making on the credit card payoff course and those weekly calls, their lives are being transformed. I mean, one of the participants said 2 weeks ago that not only does she have a better outlook on life, and not only has she reined in her spending by 50% and her quality of life hasn't changed, she's also losing weight. And she attributes that to the credit card payoff course and that weekly call. And sometimes